Good afternoon, everyone. So, any discussion on operations is incomplete without discussing supply chain. What is supply chain? Wikipedia gives us a simplistic definition. Supply chain involves the movement and storage of raw materials and finished goods from the point of origin to the point of sale. At IIMB, we strive for excellence, and therefore it is our privilege to host a panel of industry experts to delve into supply chain and its future applications. The panel is moderated by Professor Anshuman Tripathi, our faculty member who also holds the IIMB Chair of Excellence. Our panel consists of Mr. Manoj Rajan, Managing Director and CEO, Rashtriya E-Market Services. Manoj graduated with honors from AIG and FA, holds a master's degree in geology and MBA in finance from Mysore University. He has worked in various capacities for the government of Karnataka and is currently Additional Secretary to Government Market Reforms for the government of Karnataka. He is the Managing Director and CEO, as mentioned before, for Rashtriya E-Market Services Private Limited, ReMS, a unique public-private partnership model pioneering in modernizing the agricultural markets. Then we have Mr. Neeraj Verma, Global Supply Chain Manager, Caterpillar. At Caterpillar, Neeraj holds the position of Global Supply Chain Manager and is responsible for leading a team of supply chain professionals for managing supply chains spanning across 5 different countries for the genset facilities of Caterpillar. He has a lot of industry experience, having worked with companies like JCB, Mahindra & Mahindra, and currently Caterpillar. Neeraj holds an MBA from IIM Bangalore. We also have Mr. Prashant Kondle, Vice President, GoCoop Marketplace. Prashant has over 15 years of experience in the technology sector. Having started as a developer, his current role is that of Business Head, Vice President for e-commerce. He currently leads all the customer-facing businesses at GoCoop along with the P&L. Prashant is also an alumnus of IIM Bangalore. We also have Mr. Jayaram Kasi, Vice President, Product and Data Services for Picol.com. An alumnus of IIM Lucknow, Jayaram has worked with companies like Fintelix and Altisource Solutions before venturing out on his own with Picol.com with the aim of using technology and robust processes to provide hassle-free relocation solutions to customers. Jayaram is also a fellow of the Startup Leadership Program. So without further ado, please give a huge round of applause as I invite all the panelists and our professor to come up on stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Partha. Yeah, so when we start today, what we see is a big variety in the panelists that we have. We have people from the profit sector, being a business school, we talk about profit and market share, this thing. So we have Caterpillar, we have GoCoop, and we have Prashant from the handicraft. But we also have Manoj coming from the government side. And once we start talking about government, it's all about scale and also the social part of it. It's about how you benefit people, okay? And that's the difference that we are going to see. So what I'll start off is I invite each of them to spend about, say, 10 minutes talking a bit about their company, what's the role of supply chain, how supply chain is important, what are the challenges they face in supply chain, and how they think that these can be addressed, and what are the global practices that can be brought in. And we'll start off first with Neeraj, okay, with a very traditional business school, MBA, okay, profit making. So let's talk about Caterpillar and how supply chain makes sense.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that wonderful background. So working with Caterpillar as Global Supply Chain Manager in a division which is responsible for making generator sets, and those are basically manufactured at 5 different locations. In the introduction, it has been told. So the focus remains the same, maximizing the profit through the supply chain, through the various facilities. If you look across Caterpillar history, we have lots of history of evolution in each of the countries where we are present. So the way it has been worked, that the entire supply chain has been modeled in a way that it would provide the lowest landed cost to the customer, and that's how we can maximize the benefits to the organization in terms of bottom line and top line. Some of the challenges that we see today, and not specific to Caterpillar, but manufacturing industry, most of the manufacturing industry is seeing. One of the very recent challenges that we are seeing, which is very unique, is durability of trade agreements between countries. Of late, what we are seeing is that the model on which we had built the entire network of where the suppliers would be, where the customer would be, and from where we would be serving those customers, it is getting challenged or questioned with the changes in the trade agreements happening between the countries. So you would have recently heard about US administration coming up with the duty and tariff, which has been significantly different from what had been in the past. Now imagine we had done a lot of work in the past to go through each nickel and dime to that extent to understand what would be my supply chain design if I have to actually serve my customers in the US, for which particular range, for which particular KVA nodes in terms of generators, who are the customers and how do we serve them. And if we do come up with an answer like China is the best placed because of the economies of scale that China provides, and suddenly normally what the differences would be between 5 to 10% between various options and scenarios. And if at all there is a trade agreement which calls for changes like 15 to 25% duty changes, that actually puts us a significant amount of pressure on us to develop a revised model to understand then which other location are the best placed in order to serve those markets. Over the period of time, we had built capabilities, we have built the assets, we have built the whole network of supply chain in some location to get the benefits of that. And all together, we would like to now rethink it, going back to the drawing board to understand now what to do. That will have repercussions on our cash flows, that would have repercussions on developing the new suppliers, which is a journey. Now, are we up for that journey? If there is a certainty about the durability of the trade agreements from now onwards, but we don't know. So that's a recent challenge that we are facing. Some of the traditional challenge also remains. And I would say it's between challenges and opportunities. As you know, Caterpillar has been providing equipments for various customers like mining sites customers, oil and gas, generators. And these locations are tough to operate. So if you imagine mining sites, they would be operating about 1,000 meters below the surface. And those are not very well ventilated places. Those are not very well lit places. And then comes the challenge, how do we improve the efficiencies over there to continue to do best for the customers? So the opportunities that comes is the advances in the information technologies that is bringing some of the technologies like autonomous vehicles. As we have seen their counterparts, they are getting questioned by various countries' government. For example, autonomous cars being manufactured by Google or some other tech giant. But those are finding a good fit into these difficult places where we can have autonomous equipment getting into underground and then operating by having connectivity with other autonomous equipments which are working. So large wheel loaders or excavators get inside and then can work in tandem with each other. So the opportunities of Internet of Things, having the connection with all the other equipments and to maximize the performance of those equipments and sending the signal to a fleet of engineers sitting on the surface, managing the whole thing down below. So that is coming up with good opportunities in a way to supply chain is all about productivity and how do we improve the efficiency to gain more profits. And those are some of the things. Some of the professor was talking to me about what is happening in the background in terms of advances in supply chain technologies. Now, as I can give you one of the other example of very background operation is how the utilization of, let's say, drone happening. So as you know that drone are normally being looked into as providing last mile advantage to the customer, how the delivery of the goods or packages can be done to the end customer. That again, no sooner than that technology has been developed, it has already been in question in terms of the privacy laws, in terms of no crash land, no flying zones, all of that. But the companies, they are trying to deploy in their warehouses. And the opportunities that it brings is that the companies like Caterpillar or other large manufacturing companies, we do have big warehouses, and we do keep millions of parts over there. The inventory accounting is pretty important. If I have to give you a little bit of statistics, in 2016, US Retail Federation, they have reported about 45 billion loss of inventory just because of inventory mismatch, 45 billion annually. So drone provides substantial opportunities over there where inventory accounting is quite quick. It can fly between the aisles of the warehouse with the sensors, can understand what is there in which location, what has gone out, what has come in the last, from last check to this check. So all those opportunities are coming up, and which is up for any manufacturing companies to grab and maximize their potential in cash flow, reducing their working capital like inventories, sweating their assets like I mentioned in terms of mining sites. So these are some of the opportunities and challenges which are there in companies like Caterpillar.
Okay, thanks a lot, Neeraj. So let's move from Neeraj. Okay, we now talk to Jayaram. Now Jayaram comes in a very traditional, went through an IIM, went through the financial sector, found an opportunity. Okay, wonderful opportunity, and it's about how to manage transportation, how to manage logistics from the management side, not about running it. Okay, there are people who own the facilities, the people who own the assets, but how do you manage all of it? So it was very interesting talking to Jayaram, and of course the other thing is, in today's world, you say the backbone of any successful supply chain is the IT infrastructure. And what's the investment that you put in, how do you build it, and how do you differentiate yourself with respect to whatever is going on? So, Jayaram, please.
Thank you, Professor. So, just to introduce myself, I'm one of the founders of Pickall.com. We started off as a consumer relocation brand, right? One of the things it gave us the capability to do is to execute transportation requirements from point A to point B, including first mile, middle mile, and last mile. So around a year and a half back, we were having an internal discussion on where do we go from here, right? We can either exist as a consumer first brand, and there are a lot of vagaries in a consumer brand. There are ups, there are downs. We started focusing on how we can build a steady brand from this, right? So we spun off a corporate vertical which caters to corporate relocation requirements, and slowly we started moving on to supply chain, right? That's when it hits the the direct cost of companies, right? So what is it that we built? That was the first question that we asked ourselves. It is the capability to aggregate loads, to aggregate supply from different customers and get it delivered in the most seamless manner possible. So we all, have heard the term core competency. It's been around ever since C.K. Prahalad coined it, right? But is transportation the core competency of a lot of companies, right? That is what it comes down to. Do they need to keep people to manage transportation, right? So we started getting requests from companies saying, can you manage our transportation? Be our third-party logistics provider, right? So that is where the whole, conversation started, and that's when we started spinning off a lot of products gearing it towards solving transportation problems of companies, right? So right now we work with Reliance, we work with Aditya Birla to manage a lot of their transportation requirements and not strictly what we started off with, right? A few of this is opportunistic, that we saw that people were speaking to for something else, they came to us with this requirement, right? But having said that, that has evolved into a strategy to attack these kind of opportunities in companies, right? Now, if you look at the sector as a whole, there are a lot of inefficiencies that is primarily due to information asymmetry between transporters, between transport brokers, between drivers, right? So everybody has an incentive to withhold information, right? A driver does not have to report the accurate location to his owner. The owner does not need to do that to the transporter. He does not need that to the customer, right? So what we are trying to build is an open network where information gets to the customer with least hops, right? So one of the first things that we piloted was an IoT device which we can put into the shipment, right? We started off by tracking the trucks. But what happened was that, the truck drivers, right, they have an incentive to not report their accurate location. They just threw out the GPS tracker, right? I mean, this is a very practical problem. This will happen in India, right? So from that, they should not know which box the tracker is in, right? So
Information asymmetry.
is information asymmetry, exactly, right? So, so we built that very, and it should be a very low-cost device which a customer can absorb, right? And a lot of devices which are available in the market were at a much higher price than what we could afford to pay and what a customer would be ready to absorb. So we built very small devices at around probably 500 rupees price point, which is something which can get apportioned across the cost of 10 shipments, and it'll be moderate enough to be absorbed by a customer, right? So starting from there, we started looking at what all can we optimize for a customer, right? So from just procurement, from procurement of trucks, procurement of material, we started looking at what else can we solve for a customer. Can we optimize their supply chains? Can we look at their processes? In fact, one of the companies that we work for is a furniture manufacturer. So he had a manufacturing setup in Jodhpur and a quality control setup in Bangalore. What he was actually doing was that he was getting things shipped from Jodhpur to Bangalore. This is actually what he was doing. He was doing the quality control in Bangalore, and whatever rejects he is having, he was shipping it back to Jodhpur, right? So there are a lot of such inefficiencies which seem like common sense, but it is there in the market, right? So it is no surprise that the total cost of logistics in India is much higher than that of developed countries and even much higher than that of China, right? I mean, to give you a context, around $1.3 trillion is spent on logistics in the US out of the GDP of around 13 trillion. It's around 10%. In India, it's somewhere close to 20%. And that is around 7 to 8% of that is administrative costs, right? That is a huge overhead which, it is just inefficient, right? So where does these administrative costs come? It is for taking a lot of decisions. So we tried automating a lot of these decisions. So a few of the tools that we are building right now is to see how we can automate certain decisions. If, let's say, you just need a reporting of where a shipment for which you already have a tracking number for, you should be able to talk to a bot, and that should be able to tell you where the accurate location of that shipment is. And what has happened over the last, I would say, 5 years is there are two things which have contributed to this. One is the improvement in telecom infrastructure that has, given, reporting from remote locations like Belgaum or even smaller towns, right? In a very accurate manner. There is a very good network. I mean, it is much better than what it was 10 years back. Cloud infrastructure gives you the ability to run algorithms at scale. I remember 10 years back when we had to run a prediction model on a data set of credit card customers. We literally ran the code, went to play table tennis for a couple of hours, and came back to see the result. Right now, computing power is available for so cheap, and it is very easy to set up a machine learning algorithm. Within an hour, you can spin off an AWS server, right? So that is another thing which has contributed to this entire growth. Now, where does this go forward for us? One is with, we talk about AI and analytics. Where does it practically get applied? It is with chatbots, which will make this conversation a lot simpler, right? Instead of going to a website and clicking a tracking number, you should just be able to say, hey, where is tracking number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And it will give you an accurate location. So those are the kind of things that we see going from here, right? Prediction models in terms of where do you see demand coming up, right? So based on that, a lot of supply decisions, a lot of conversations with vendors saying, hey, I'm getting an order of 200 sofas for Diwali. Can you step up production in, let's say, 5 weeks before Diwali? So automating a lot of these conversations is where we see this going forward, right? Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jayaram. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's now move to Prashant. Prashant, again, coming out of the EPGP program, spent a couple of years in the financial sector before he went back to the family business. And he does look at a bit on the handicraft side and how to bring it forward. So, Prashant.
So I work for GoCoop. GoCoop is a marketplace for handloom. So the mission is to create sustainable livelihoods for artisans of India. And we can say we are a technology company. I manage the e-commerce and offline retail. So it's a customer-centric business, but fundamentally it's a supply chain which we work with. It's a supply chain weaver-centric business. And we deal with issues and try to solve issues at a brick-by-brick level. That means solving issues which are very India-specific, very local-specific. So just to give a context, the supply chain or the production capacity of handlooms can't be increased. Okay, so handloom is done by hand, so human is the machine. Human, for example, this shirt I'm wearing, it's done in Tamil Nadu, and a typical shirt takes 2.5, 2.3 meters of fabric for one making a standard size shirt. A weaver can produce around 4 to 5 meters in a day. He can't produce more, we can't force him to produce more. That's the end of the game. And we have the next generation which is not coming or not adopting the family business, because handloom as it is a generational family business. It's a very caste-based business. It's a very community-based business. So if the next generation of people are not adopting the family business, it's contracting. The demand is there. So there is a lot of demand. The supply is contracting, and it's highly unorganized. So how do you solve that? How can a supplier or a buyer sitting in who's wants fabric for a luxury segment in Australia, can they apply their standards of how they want the production to be done, but the production is done in 3-4 different villages with 40 different weavers, and the entire thing is according to a lot of the principles which we learn in operation management, where have we applied the right quality of supply selection? Can this master weaver and his weavers, can they do a fabric of international quality? There are n number of weavers who can do for local market. Can they do? What are the criteria we are applied? What are the defined standards of fabric? What are the attributes of the fabric which are acceptable and the buyer has to accept because that's part of parcel of the business? How do we communicate? Suppose if I say that today there is rain and no production happening, how do we communicate? How does the weaver communicate to the buyer saying that there is delay? So step by step, brick by brick, how do we solve those equations along the way so that you develop that supply chain ecosystem and the weavers are trained for those kinds of international orders, even national orders. So those are the challenges we face. So for example, we did a couple of months back, we did an order for an international buyer. So it was done in Pochampally, which is around 60 kilometers from Hyderabad. And it's an ikat fabric. So there are better weavers. There is more capacity in a town which is, in another district. But Pochampally is a GI product. You have to manufacture it in that. So you have to maintain that. So you have a limited set of supply, and you have to figure out the weavers. Then what you have to do is you have to figure out what is the quality of the yarn which they are getting. No, this is not the quality the buyer wants. Now you have to look at where can I get the right kind of yarn from a neighboring state or from a different mill. Make sure that supply chain is connected and you are getting the right kind of yarn to this weaver, because the weaver is not connected. What the master is getting is what's available in the local trader, because they provide credit facilities. So we have to intervene, we have to get government bodies or another credit facility bodies to extend credit so that we get on credit. The yarn is done. Making sure the right kind of dyes are there, getting done. That particular fabric has to be dyed 4 or 5 different times. how do we establish that the dyeing is done and the dyeing is going correctly with the right kind of depth and color saturation? So, and how does the buyer know? So, one thing you do is you take a small sliver of couple of yarns and ship it to Australia. The other thing is, why do you have to wait 4 or 5 days? We actually take photo of what they have offered as a sample, this is the, and put the other yarn as sample and take a photo. So the equation of the phone quality, the photo is resolved, and they can actually look at the what is being produced is somewhat similar or 95% similar in terms of the color parameters. Then you visually show the loom. Every step of the way, you want to make sure the customer is able to, as a organized buyer, they are able to follow their process. But you are trying to conform and the supplier base so that they are also growing in the step of the ways and they can take an order. They can take an order of a certain kind of standards. Can we do lab tests? Can we show that as a proof? Can we actually show videos and evidence of what kind of, on the loom saying that this is what's going on in production, this is what's getting out, and visually show proof that there is no kind of regulations which are applicable in Western countries which are happening there. For example, weavers are wearing gloves while they are dyeing. So we have to show proof. Otherwise, it's certain kind of standards. So this is the challenges of when it comes to growing the supply chain handloom sector, just one aspect of doing bulk business. And for when it comes to e-commerce, we talk about one-day shipment. So I want to, everybody from a customer side is happy that I order today on X or Y site and I get it tomorrow. But we see on the back-end side, the amount of unsustainable behavior or unsustainable ecosystem it creates when we are trying to deliver such kind of metrics to the customer. Suppose you want to take for in particular handloom sector, you want to take products which are unique in nature, 1,000 kilometers away to a Bangalore location, store it, so that you want to deliver instead of 3 or 4 days, in 1 or 2 days, but and then return unwritten goods. So you are working with a weaver or a small master weaver, and you are taking around 20-30% of that weaver's inventory and keeping it aside and returning 50% unsold. That's a huge unsustainable and ungreen kind of ecosystem you're creating, because as MBAs and as professionals, we are driven by a lot of Excel metrics. 99% deliver by 1 day. But what it creates is there is no growth of systems in place at villages. Why does a product has to go from a village in Madhya Pradesh, which is around 150 kilometers from Indore or Bhopal, to Delhi? Because we want to do a better photo shoot for e-commerce. That's a supply chain thing, because getting the product and the content in front of on the TV screen to the customer is still a supply chain problem. It's not just a physical product. But why does it has to travel 1,000 kilometers with the fuel, with transportation services with additional cost? Why can't we invest our efforts in developing the ecosystem there, where the product lies there, where a photographer is trained to create photos, somebody who's a BA, BCom graduate is trained to write content of the right, and that's what delivers efficiency and sustainable behavior. So these are the things brick by brick, we work with in solving supply chain issues.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Prashant. And now before I go to Manoj, a little bit, government sector. Now, one of the things we have to be aware of, pure scale. Just before we came here, talking with Manoj, just talking about various initiatives. Today, of course, he's now going to talk about Rashtriya e-market services, but there are various other things that he has been doing so far. And it's just, he says, let's look at XYZ. What's the scale? 40,000 crores. Now just imagine, and then he says 2 ways 40,000, so that's 80,000 crores. Now that's eye-popping. Let's think about it, that's eye-popping, and when we talk about 80,000 crores, just think about the kind of infrastructure required, and more than anything, what is the important thing? Reach. Are you able to reach the last guy? How do you reach him? And even if you reach that fellow, is he in a position to use the facilities? You have to also train him to use the facilities. So it is not just about you create a platform or you create a system that someone benefits from. It's just the scale and how you train people to use it. And the intent is to go to the last village, the last person, as much as possible. And the intent is to hit 100%. You may be successful, it may take time, but ultimately that's the aim. So without that, so Manoj, please talk about it.
Thank you, Chair. And in the beginning, I want to just see a small observation there. We were taken to a room called the Green Room, and refreshments are served there. And then they said, the professor will brief you about the panel. Okay, we were waiting. Then the professor entered, briefed us, and in fact, very nicely summed up what we discussed there as to what I'm going to talk. But he made a statement there, said that I'm going to sit back and watch y'all guys speak. I thought he just said, but after seeing this photo, all the 4 speakers are watching you, and only he's watching the speakers there. Even the photo is speaking. So I thought he's too practical. Well, I would like to thank IIM for giving me this opportunity to be here. And the purpose of me agreeing here is that I would be talking about a sector which is less heard from your side, and with a hope that the upcoming managers or entrepreneurs who are sitting there would come out with some solution to handle the opportunities which I lay before you all. So that is my hope and my reason why I'm here. I had taken the permission of the chair to speak in 3 portions. First, I will give you the background of the agriculture markets in the state, what has happened and what is happening. The second part will be the challenges in agri-market sector with reference to supply chain. And the third one, the opportunities it holds, all brief of 5 minutes. So I requested him for 5 minutes extra, which he was kind enough to grant me. So if I talk about the agri-markets, so let me tell you, this is one sector which directly impacts 60% of the population living in the country. And any ideas on what is the indirect dependence on agriculture? 100%. So if that is so very important, I requested for 5 minutes more. Right. The agri-markets of Karnataka is just an example of rest of the country. Prior to reforms which we took is that it was highly isolated informal markets which existed. For example, in Karnataka, we had 162 agriculture markets. And we call them as regulated markets because they are regulated under Karnataka Agriculture Produce Development and Regulation Act. So when I say regulated markets, there is a specification of how do you buy, who has to buy, how do you sell, how do you pay, and all those things. So anybody dealing in the agri-commodity sector not aware of this is directly creating an offense under the Act. I'm not scaring you, but if you look at the ambit of this Act, the interest of the Act is to protect the poor farmer such that he doesn't get cheated at end of the day. It talks about an institutional mechanism of seeing that there's a platform for selling, there's a platform of price dissemination, quality assessment, and settlement of payment. So this is the preamble of why the Act has been done. So 60 years post what the market reforms and the Act came into existence, the 162 markets, so each market would be 4 times the size of IIM, 400 hectares in size. So this is the size of a market. And then you have farmers coming in. We have around 58 lakh farmers registered on my platform who come to these markets in various sizes, colors, time, season out over here to display their produce. And you have around 38,000 traders, 38,000 licensed traders, licensed from the Department of Agriculture Marketing, who buy this produce, and then further goes on to the 6.2 crore population of the state and outside the state also. So these 162 markets, isolated when I say, are islands on their own, because each market is run by a committee, licensed by a committee. Then you have restricted competition locally there, enabling cartelization. Nobody is going to tell them about the price. The farmer doesn't know about the price. Information asymmetry hugely thriving around over here. So competition cut, information asymmetry cut, no financial linkages. That is what the numbers the professor was rightly saying. Karnataka alone transacts 40,000 crores in primary markets recorded. There is something at the field level which is being sold. If 40,000 crores in Karnataka, around 6-7 lakhs in the country on primary sale. So all of us know that the primary commodities which the farmer sells needs to go into processing apart from the fruits and vegetables, and then there is value addition, and then you see a 3 times increase in the agricultural value in the country. So the point I'm making here was that the Karnataka government came out with path-breaking reforms in 2013. In fact, There was a committee constituted. I was the chairman. Professor Gopal Naik was one of the esteemed members of this committee. We spoke about market reforms and said that we need to break barriers. We need to bring in transparency. We need to bring in efficiency. We brought out the online electronic platform known as the Unified Market Platform, which Rashtriya E-Market Services is providing with the National E-Markets Limited in Mumbai. We are a PPP in which we are running this platform. So today in Karnataka, all the 162 markets are trading on this platform. The farmer who gets his produce, the produce is uploaded out over here. There is this quality assaying mechanism where you test the qualities, the basic 5-6 parameters like moisture, brokens, weevils, and parameters which are required onto the platform. The buyer logs onto the system. He doesn't have to go physically see the produce, looks into the assaying certificate given by a qualified assayer, and then bids the process out. And then the transparency in price discovery has been established. I forgot to tell you that it is very interesting to study the price discovery mechanisms in the agriculture markets. Open outcry system, the kerchief method, 11 रुपए, 11 10, 11 20, 11 40, बंद कर दिया हमने, आँख का इशारा मिल गया, I stop it. So now transparency in price discovery, then in billing systems, lot of transparency related issues with leveraging technology has been done in Karnataka. Today, the entire country is following the Karnataka model. We have the ENAM put in place out over here. In the Unified Market Platform, till date, I have sold more than 120 lakh farmer lots. That means so many producers I have. You can multiply with all the e-commerces put together, they won't have so many suppliers. So many suppliers, a cumulative turnover of more than 1 lakh crore. Last year it was 42,000 crores. I've already clocked 14,000 crores this year. So small organization with around 20 employees, we do a turnover of around 40,000 crores in agri markets, right? So this is what has happened. The results are farmers are getting better prices, not only because of putting the electronic platform, but breaking barriers, increased competition, quality, awareness, associated activities. So when I say that this is what has happened till now, I would say it's the beginning of reforms in the agri-market sector. One of the questions a colleague from Deloitte asked me, one of my friends wanted to see what are the opportunities in the agri-market sector. So the third session would be very interesting. So today when I'm talking about such a kind of a market structure changed from what it was earlier, opportunities in chunks are available. So one to say is assaying. Assaying in Karnataka alone requires 2,500 to 3,000 manual assayers to be present. Automation of assaying is required because agriculture commodities peaks up during the harvest season and then drops down. So it is in this peak season I need to test the quality parameters and put those quality parameters for buyers to look at. So assaying industry per se is a huge industry. Karnataka, if it can absorb around 2,500 to 3,000 assayers, then automation in assaying, imagine what is in for the entire country. So one is on assaying. The next one is, which is very related to today's subject, is integrated logistics, which I thought I should be telling you on the integrated logistics. In fact, in the last 6 years of my experience in this, the problem which I am seeing today to have the entire vision happening, because very rightly Professor said, I am again drawing my attention to Professor because I'm impressed. He said, let us first talk about profits and the business school, then we'll come to the social sector. Opportunity and profits to you is very important, but equally important is your duty towards the country as well as the last man. Because when you talk about food security, I and you have an equal role. We may be hit not now, but later on. So integrated logistics plays a very crucial role in the agri-market reforms as to what I am saying now. When I broke barriers in Karnataka and I said that you can have a trader license and buy produce in Bidar, Gulbarga, which was not possible before, but what is the logistics support I am providing today? In the 5 years of endeavor. So the integrated logistic concept, which I am now saying in all places where I speak, is that if a person in Indore buys potatoes in Hassan, should be comfortably sitting in his place to see that potatoes 3 days down the line is delivered to the place he wants. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about transportation, I'm talking about storage, I'm talking about packing. If it is an commodity which is a storable commodity like your pulses and all those things needs to be packed in specific sizes, bagged, insurance and cleaning, grading, lot of issues which are there in integrated logistics. So this is a huge potential in the agri-market sector for integrated logistics to come. Storages, what are the storages we have now? If we talk about perishables, if you look at storables, at least the price is increasing. You paid 30 rupees rice, it doesn't go to 28 rupees, it goes to 32 rupees, 34 rupees because they are storables. But perishables, yesterday you paid 2 rupees, next week you pay 20 rupees. Why? Where is the problem? So storage logistics, especially the cold storage logistics, now with advanced, in fact, 15 days back I was in Israel, I was looking at their packaging, and a small country with 1/10 of what land they do, they are selling around $2,000 billion of exports. They talk about cold storages, they talk about mobile cold storages. We don't have a fixed cold storage here. They've got vehicle cold storage vans which have solar panels. So 3 days of journey, there's no problem of your diesel consumption which is going to take place. So farmer produces wherever there is water, and then it is reaching the place where it has to reach. Now I am thinking that we must look at times where we have a Ola for trucks, where the fellow who buys it should be looking like we look at our air channels. GoIBibo, we look, which tickets do you buy, which is cheaper? You should find out, because trucks which has delivered in Bangalore has to go out. And then it should say, down the rates. In fact, the vehicles park themselves without running. But if he gets business, he can knock out his price because everything accounts. He has to pay tax for the vehicle, the salary of the thing, wear and tear of the vehicle. If it is less, he can do it. So we need to have such kind of logistics where you can exactly look at, where a trader in Bhopal looks at your website or portal and fixes a travel agent with due diligence and scrutiny which you do, and see that his produce reaches him at the right time. So the point I am making here today is that each one of you sitting here have got a ton of a brain and capacities to come out with solutions. The solutions in the agri-market sector, which is around 40,000 crore turnover on the platform, which I said is only a small tip of the iceberg. You can actually multiply it by 5 times when it reaches the end consumer. So what is it you can look at supply chain logistics? Now we talk about artificial intelligence in supply chain management, but where is your raw material coming again for whatever you are saying? Agriculture markets, agriculture commodities are the base. So my submission to this elite group is that this is a sector where you can look and be it assaying on one side, be it integrated logistics on one side, only storage and handling on one side. Let's talk about farmer producer organizations, agro industry. Huge potential is there. How many of you have even thought about the potential of the agro industry? Agro industry, if it works backwards, ties up with farmer producer organization, has a complete supply chain given to them, and they will, in Thailand, 40% of the tomatoes produced goes for ketchup because it's a different variety which is grown there. But here we don't have that variety. So if this agro processing industry is also encouraged, government of Karnataka has in its capacities done a lot of, I would say, support in this sector. They have given a specific economics, SEZs, they have given some rebates, they have given some rebates in market fees, their power subsidy, all those things out. But it is young entrepreneurs like us, you and me, who can sit in this sector and look, how can we take a specific commodity and tie it back? How can we look at these things? There's huge problems which are plaguing. They spoke about a stabilized formal industry. I am speaking about an informal industry. So opportunities are 10 times more here. So sitting here, if you can exactly look at this sector, trust me, your profit goals will 100% be addressed, and my goal of social also will be addressed. So thank you.
All right.